Talk us through, explain how the decision was made to cancel shut down the senior center for the next couple of weeks.
Well, on Thursday, I got an email from the Worcester COA director, and her mayor decided to close the senior center. Basically, the reason that he did it was because there was so many positive cases in the city, and so out of an abundance of caution, they decided to close for a month. So that sort of put it in my head, like, I wonder what we should do. So then when we got a few people that got the free COVID test, because we were passing them out last week, a couple of people called and said, I tested positive. And we did have a food event Tuesday before Christmas, a pizza party. So people were sitting at a table like this, and they were across from each other. And they weren't wearing masks because they were eating. So I definitely do not want to have any food events for a while. But I also thought, I mean, what we do here for exercise programs and activities is important, so people don't feel isolated. But is it that important that we couldn't pause it for a couple of weeks and err on caution and maybe stop the spread? Because I think what we're seeing now is the holidays are over, and so people are testing. But we also have more people testing than ever before. So right now, we've had 5 positive cases, and they were from people who came here on a regular basis. So that was concerning. So I called Mike Borg and asked him what he thought about, just not having programs. We wouldn't close the building. People could still come in if they needed something, to get a dial-a-ride pass or to get a COVID test kit, but not have, 14 people in one room doing exercise classes, or people hanging around just drinking coffee and chatting. So we sent out a mass email. We have about 80 or 90 people that regularly attend that provide their email address. And then I came in on Friday and called some people that I know don't have email and just said, we're just going to pause. And we let Dial-A-Ride know that if anyone had a scheduled ride, that they weren't going to be coming. But I think then it was in the Sun Chronicle yesterday, so I got calls from quite a few different directors in the area. We have a Bristol Regional Directors Group, and I run the monthly meetings, so people look to me for guidance. So they were like, oh, I'm so glad you did that, because now my mayor is asking me, or my town administrator is asking me, do you think we should do this? So Norton has decided to close programs down. I think she said a month. I might be wrong, but I think she said a month. And I think Mansfield called me and wanted to know what I thought, and she was going to try to talk to her Board of Health agent. And I think that the general gist of the whole thing is people think it's a good idea to just err on caution and then let everybody take a breather for a couple weeks and then come back.
How about the seniors that come to the center? Did they understand?
Do they understand?
The reasoning? Do they support your decision?
I got some positive feedback in emails saying I think it's the right thing to do. What we saw, and that's what I told Mike, was that people were not coming anyways. So a class that we used to have 19 for exercise, 19, 20 people, we had 4. So I think people were making the decision anyway. This just made it easier for people to say, well, there aren't any programs. So, and even the walking group, they walk outside, but one of the people from the walking group tested positive. And we're waiting to find out if the person that she walked with is positive. So even the walking group leader said, we're going to pause for you too, for 2 weeks. So I think they respect whatever you decide. They really do. They're a very good group of people. But I think that nobody wants to feel like it's their fault. That, well, if I didn't come in, I test positive. Maybe Mrs. Smith was, some of our knitters that come here are in their 80s and 90s. And we have one woman that comes to exercise classes that's 90. I just feel like we can pause for two weeks.
Yeah, God forbid anything were to happen. What will be the determining factor if you open in 2 weeks? You mentioned Norton or Mansfield might close for up to a month. I'm sure next week at this time you'll be determining whether or not to reopen.
Well, personally, what my thought was is to see, I'm tracking the calls that we get. And when we gave out the COVID test kits, I provided my cell phone number because of the holiday. And I said, call me if you test positive because I want to see if there's any correlation of anything. Right now, I don't really think there's anything to do with the senior center. I think, as a matter of fact, 2 people told me personally that they were with their grandchildren and their college grandchildren tested positive or whatever. And so they're sure they probably got it from their family. They were with them Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, maybe New Year's Eve. So I don't really think that people coming in here need to worry that they're going to get it. I think it's just out there, and we're going to get it one way or the other. We don't know who we're getting it from. But I want to see if it slows down. If next week, if the rest of the week and next week, nobody calls me and says I'm positive, then I think we can probably go back. But I did ask Mike also last week if we could just require a mask. And so that's why I have my mask on. But so I just think, and so some of the programs that we have, like ukulele, it's difficult to sing with the mask on.
Yes.
And it doesn't sound good, and so they were thinking they wouldn't have it for a while anyways. They actually approached me and said maybe we shouldn't do ukulele, So I said it's up to you at that time, but now, we'll see. But as long as we can keep the numbers down for the people that are testing positive, then I think we can probably come back. I am in the process of trying to rent a bigger spot from a hall in town so that we can stay further apart when they're exercising. And it was recommended during the initial COVID, 12 feet when you're exercising. And so when we were having the classes outside, we first had them outside on the parking lot, and then we got the tent. But we had it set 12 feet apart, so people were exercising and the other person was 12 feet away from them. So I think they could probably go without a mask if they're 12 feet apart. But I'll have to check with Anne Marie Fleming on that. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to resume everything in a couple weeks. So if there's no way of knowing, if we still have a lot of cases, then I think we should consider doing it for a couple more weeks. I got an email today from Mass Council on Aging, and they represent all the senior centers in Massachusetts. And I notified them of what we were doing, and Worcester notified them. So they sent out a survey to all the cities and towns, senior centers, to see how many people chose to close down for a couple of weeks and how many were staying closed longer. So before Christmas, some senior centers already decided to close for 2 weeks, just to be cautious. So
it makes sense. Absolutely.
It's a tough call because it's tough for senior center directors to say, don't come here, because what we're all about is bringing seniors here to socialize and not be isolated and have fun and, make new friends, and they do that. And now you're saying, stay away. But I think people understand.
Absolutely.
So hopefully it will only be for a few weeks and we can go back. I got to tell you, when we reopened, you never saw so many happy people. They were just so happy.
I bet. Pam, thank you so much.
Yeah, so hopefully it's going to get better. That's what my emails I say, be positive, be safe, and be well. And that's what I think we have to do. Positive attitude is really important.
Absolutely.